Welcome to another episode of Erik Wait Whiskey Studies. And if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I am a really big Ardbeg fan. I've been to the distillery, visited in June 2018. I have quite the Ardbeg collection. I've got the 10-year-old. I've actually gone through 3 of these. This is probably my baseline for Ardbeg. I think it's one of the highest quality price ratio Scotch whiskeys. So it really is the standard bearer because it sells for about $46 to $50 per bottle. And I think it sort of holds the classic Ardbeg profile. Then there's the Korvreken that comes in at 57.1% alcohol by volume. In terms of their primary lineup, I would say this is probably my all-time favorite. Then there's the Uigeadail at 54.2% alcohol by volume, another real monster from Ardbeg. Then there's the Kilpie that comes in at 46% alcohol by volume. I would say 46% is sort of a classic level for Ardbeg. Then there's the An-Oa, which comes in at 46.6% alcohol by volume, slightly sweeter, more approachable, not quite as peaty as a lot of the other Ardbeg expressions. Then we get into some of the committee release expressions. This is the Perpetuum, their 200th anniversary edition from 2015. This is probably the most ashy and smoky of the Ardbegs. Almost like a Laphroaig lover's Ardbeg. And then we have the Ardbeg Dark Cove Committee release, probably my all-time favorite Ardbeg to date. This is absolutely superb. I bought 2 bottles for $150 each. It is now selling for between $400 and $50. This is probably the creme de creme of Ardbeg. And then the most recent committee release from Ardbeg is the Ardbeg Drum, a really unique expression, brings in a lot of tropical notes, a lot of pineapple, probably also one of the most controversial. There's some people who didn't particularly care for it, but I really liked it. I thought it was good to go from the neck, but even gets better as you get past the shoulder. Then there's the Ardbeg Grooves. Ardbeg Grooves was aged in red wine cask. It had grooves in it, so there's more interaction between the spirit and the oak, and it gives it a sort of nice, I would say, chocolate covered cherry note to it. Really, really unique expression, worth searching out. Still widely available, and there's also the committee release, which I haven't had in terms of my possession, but I have tasted them side by side at a local whiskey shop, and it was really, really, really good. Probably the most special bottle in my entire Ardbeg collection is the Ardbeg Kildalton. This is one that I brought back from Islay. It's a very special bottle, generally only available from the distillery, and it is created to be a fundraiser to raise funds for the maintaining of the Kildalton Chapel, which is really close to the distillery, which, if I recall correctly, dates all the way back to the 5th century. So it's a really cool historical site. Definitely worth checking out if you visit the distillery. But since it's so hard to get and it is such a special bottling, this is one that I don't go back to very often. I tend to save it for special occasions. And I've got one other Ardbeg that I have not yet reviewed. I'm saving this one for a special occasion. This is the Ardbeg Very Young, distilled in 1997 and bottled in 2003. Got this one at a fundraising auction, and I'm waiting for the opportunity to share this with Scott and Bart from the Scotch Test Dummies, which I hope to do in the near future. And all this brings us to the bottle that I'm going to be reviewing in this video, which is the Ardbeg 19-year-old Islay Single Malt Scotch Whisky. This is called Traigh Bhan. In Gaelic, it refers to a beach that's nearby. And I got this today, but when I first got it, I uncorked it, poured a glass, let it sit for an hour. In fact, before I opened it, I actually turned it upside down to put whatever was in the neck into the body of the bottle. Then I poured some into a glass, let it sit for an hour, finished that glass, and then immediately poured myself another one, and I was sort of nursing it over the last 2 or 3 hours. just to see how it opens up and develops. So this is actually my third glass out of the bottle, just enough to get it past the shoulder. And I would say I really liked it from the neck, and I really liked it in the second glass. And as I continue to go back to it, we'll continue to see how it develops. But for this review, I thought, you know what? I've gotten it past the shoulder. Let's see how it goes. But before getting into this, here are my notes. Ardbeg Traigh Bhan 19-year-old Islay single malt Scotch is the first permanent age-stated whiskey to be released in nearly 20 years from Ardbeg Distillery. The whiskey is named after Islay's Traigh Bhan beach, known locally as Singing Sands. The whiskey will be available in limited batches, produced on an annual basis, and the recipe will change with each batch, creating subtle differences between future iterations. Each batch of Ardbeg Traigh Bhan will feature a unique code on the carton and bottle, which Ardbegians can enter into the distillery's website to find out more about the story of the whiskey. The whiskey is matured in American oak and ex-Oloroso sherry casks before being bottled non-chill filtered at 46.2% alcohol by volume. The manufacturer's suggested retail price is $210 in the US or £169 in the UK, but due to limited supply and fandom demand, it has been selling for about $300 in the United States, where it is available in the USA. So the questions I have about this is, I spent $300 plus shipping to get this bottle. I had it shipped all the way from New York, and I actually spent the money to have it FedEx to get here in 2 days. So I spent some money to get this bottle. In fact, other than the bottle that I got at auction for the charity auction, I've spent more money on this bottle than I have on any other Ardbeg. Now, the questions I have is, how does this compare to the other Ardbegs? Quality price ratio, is it worth $300? Is it even worth the suggested retail price if you can get it at that, whether in the UK or here in the United States? And then how does it compare, I would say, qualitatively? Now, this is the first expression of this. They're going to be, as you saw in the notes, they're going to keep coming out this every year. So this is a new bottling for their core line. And I'm probably going to want to grab another one of these and keep buying them every year. So let's get into it. Now, color-wise, one of the things you notice is how light in color it is, which I like about Ardbeg because it means they're not adding any extra coloring to it, and it doesn't need it. On the nose, it has old classic Ardbeg notes. If you were to try this blind against other Islay, let's say particularly Lagavulin or Lefroy, or even some other big island peaty whiskeys, this has a distinctive Ardbeg character to it, which I find difficult to describe. It's just certain Ardbegginess to it. So it has sort of a grilled lemon. It has a pineapple character, sort of a grilled pineapple. It has some peach notes to it. Yeah, interwoven with that is smoke, definitely some chocolate notes, layers of spice, loads of vanilla. It has a lot of sort of dark chocolate and smoke character to it. Maybe in a little bit of a green apple character to it, but imagine having pineapple, imagine having guava, imagine having lime, and maybe some apple notes to it, but wrap it all in chocolate and dip it in some smoke, right? All of it is going to be so intertwined. Now on the palate, So, in some ways, the aromas and flavors are similar to, say, an Ardbeg 10. But if you taste this and go back to an Ardbeg 10, what this does, and I love the Ardbeg 10, don't get me wrong, but when you taste this and go back to an Ardbeg 10, what Ardbeg 10 is now going to seem is, wow, that's really youthful. You can taste and sense that this has spent some extra time in the cask. While it has similar if you were to write down the descriptors or check little boxes on the descriptors, it'd be very similar to the Ardbeg 10, but everything is interwoven, and texturally, I would say texturally, it's very, very different. It doesn't have an abrasiveness. It doesn't have sort of a gripping character to it. It actually has, now it's full flavored, and yet it can still come across with a lot of grace, a lot of elegance. It has a silky texture to it. Has a really long finish to it. I said the biggest thing, what gives this whiskey the wow factor, is that it has a lot of classic Ardbeg character to it, and yet the grace and finesse and silkiness and sort of a seductive luxury character to it, that's just sort of very enchanting, comes with the age. So if you could take an Ardbeg 10 and just sit on it for a decade, it would probably be getting pretty close to this. It's just really, really seductive in its mouthfeel, in its character, in its development, and how it goes from the palate, from the entry into the mid palate and into the finish. Has a real nice sweetness to it, and yet also maintains a savory character to it, and a really long finish. I really, really like this whiskey. What am I going to give this in terms of a score? I'm going to go 93 points. 93 points. I really, really like this whiskey. It is a contender for being one of my top 10 for 2019. Now, issue is, what about the quality price ratio? If you can get this for $300 at your local whiskey shop, is it worth $300? One, that's going to be dependent on you. That's going to be dependent. There is sort of a diminishing return once you pass a certain point that you're spending on wines or whiskeys, right? What is so awesome about the Ardbeg 10 is it's only $46 to $50. That's hard to beat. I don't know of another Scotch whiskey in that price range that can meet its quality, right? And so once you pass, I would say maybe $100, what you're getting per dollar in terms of quality, as you increase adding more and more dollars to the price, the increase of the improvement of the whiskey starts to slow down, right? Your biggest jump in terms of quality price ratio is probably from the $50 to $100 range, and then once you pass that $100 range, what you're getting for your buck in return for it is going to slow down. Now, if you're an Ardbeg fan, if you're an Ardbegian, as I am, yeah, pull the trigger. You're going to want a bottle. You're definitely going to want one. If you're in the habit of spending, a couple $100 on a whiskey, don't hesitate. Go ahead and get this one. However, I would say for those of you who, yeah, you like Ardbeg, but you're not that big of a fan, then probably not. For a really powerful, flavorful Ardbeg that you're going to really get a lot of value out of, I probably would go with the Korvreken. I probably would go with the Korvreken. Korvreken probably goes for about $70 US, depending on where you're at. I would say for the power, the strength, and awesomeness of the Korvreken, it's hard to beat for anything under $100. Now, one of the things that this also sort of reminds me of in terms of another whiskey, this in some ways reminds me of a cross between an Ardbeg, but also as a Octomore. Say the Octomore 8.1. Octomore has a unique way in which the peat sort of is delivered to your palate, and the way it's sort of a sensuous character to it. And I would say Ardbeg sort of rides on that fence. And the Octomores tend to go for $175 to $225 in that range. So if you can get this at retail, you're probably in the Octomore range for price-wise. And I would say that would probably be its closest competitor in terms of flavors and aromas and the quality of the whiskey. is one of the better Octomores. That's sort of what I would put. If I was going to have a match, you know, a fight between two Islay whiskeys, those are the two I would probably put up against each other. Alrighty, so that's it for this review. If you have subscribed to this channel, I want to thank you very much. If you haven't yet subscribed, but you like watching my videos, I would greatly appreciate it if you would give this video a thumbs up, share with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and other social networking channels. And until next time, cheers. Hey, if you like my review, be sure to check out these other whiskey videos.